Thanks for joining us tonight for News 4 at 6. I'm Matt Breen. Jessica Bowman is on assignment. A major connection between Iowa and Nebraska is in need of repair or replacement as two state departments of transportation seek a solution for the Decatur Bridge. That bridge connects the two states between Monona and Burt counties. KTIV's Matt Hoffman visited that bridge earlier today. And Matt, tell us where the bridge is and what condition it's in.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. The bridge separates Monona and Burt counties. Decatur is right here on the map. The bridge is in the middle, and a few miles this way is Iowa. And the bridge isn't in very good condition. The more we keep the structure the same, the less and less weight the bridge will be able to handle. Wind whips against the Decatur Bridge. Water flows under it, and cars clank across the surface.
The bridge has some condition issues. It's a narrow structure between the rails. It's 22 feet 6 inches, which is pretty tight.
The Iowa and Nebraska Department of Transportations are studying what's next when it comes to the Decatur Bridge. The study will include all options, including removal, replacement, or even moving the bridge. Officials say the bridge is 70 years old, and the wear and tear is starting to show.
I mean, we talked about 2011 and the flooding there. We certainly could have a situation that requires closure because of Mother Nature. We don't know. We're trying to look at the future and try to determine how best to serve this area.
One thing is clear. If the bridge was to close for any amount of time, it's about a 70-mile detour to cross the river. And that's a huge inconvenience for folks here in Burt and Monona counties.
The consequences of doing nothing is basically continue that maintenance cycle, which becomes more and more expensive to a point where you can no longer perform the maintenance. It just isn't feasible.
Now, both states are seeking your input online. We'll have a link to where you can make your voice heard. And Matt, there's a lot of history behind this bridge, and we'll let you tell folks about that right now.
Matt Hoffman in studio tonight. Matt, thanks so much. DOT officials say the bridge started as a toll bridge launched by the Burt County Bridge Commission. The commission transferred ownership to Iowa and Nebraska in the 2010s after the loan to build the bridge was paid off. Nebraska is technically the lead agency here, even though 70% of that bridge is in Iowa. That's because under an agreement between the two states, the states alternate which state is in charge of which bridge. Built in the 1950s, that bridge was built on dry land, and then the Missouri River was actually rerouted to flow beneath it. It's been closed several times, including at least once for flooding in 2011. The final design for the new project is projected to be made public sometime in 2026. Officials say construction is unlikely to begin until at least 2029. Taking a live look over